everyone, my name is Christianne and welcome to my channel Backpacking Bananas. Now, I have been making these videos for over 10 years now and traveling around the world, and I feel like it's about time that I share with you some of my favorite travel tips, hacks and advice to help you travel smarter around the globe. In this video, I have for you activity tips, transport tips, accommodation tips, packing tips, even some budget tips too. So stick around and hopefully you'll learn something new. So you're in a foreign destination, or you're planning to visit a foreign destination, but you have no idea what fun things there are actually to do in said foreign destination. What you're going to do is put a search straight into Get Your Guide, who are kindly the sponsors of today's video, and search for an activity in your destination. Now, you're probably going to get a lot of the obvious ones, like if you're in London, going on the London Eye, for example, or going on a hop-on, hop-off bus. But what you're also going to see is so many other smaller, more independent companies offering activities and excursions that you may have never even heard of. You can filter your search by interest, price, languages available, activity duration, and even the specific date and time of day that you have available to do the activity. I was looking for an activity to do with my assistant in London, something outdoorsy and adventurous, which I really didn't know what would come up, and I saw climbing the roof of the O2 Arena. This was perfect. Such an exciting activity to do as a bonding experience, and also climb on top of an arena which I visited the inside of many times, never thought to climb over it. We even had a glass of Prosecco at the top. It's also perfect for the times where you're traveling and you may want to book an activity in advance. Maybe you're going to be on a tight schedule, you're only going to be somewhere for a very specific amount of time. I actually did this when I was in Peru and I was visiting NASCAR. I knew that the only thing I wanted to do there was take a flight over the NASCAR lines. I was going to be in the town for a couple of hours, and so I had a look on Get Your Guide. I was able to book a tour directly on the website. I was even able to look at the reviews of other people who had done the exact same tour before booking. I wasn't even going to be staying in a hostel in the town, so I was able to arrange a pickup from this random cafe, and everything went so smooth and it was an amazing flight. So if you are looking for things to do on your travels and to make bookings and to see reviews, definitely have a look at Get Your Guide, and you never know what you might find.
When it comes to getting around in a foreign country, planning your journey and executing it, I don't think there's a single rule of thumb way which will always work for getting you where you want to go. So I'll tell you what I do. If it's a flight away, I will now always use Google Flights, because not only does it compare all of the best flight prices, but it also gives you travel routes that you may not have even thought of, because you can literally do your journey search door to door and it will tell you all the different options that you could possibly take with the closest airports, which you may have not even known existed. I also just find the search filters on Google Flights to have the most functions while still being super easy to use, and you can track the flight prices too. Aren't we lucky to be living in a day and age where all of this is so easily accessible for us? I also like using a website called Hopper, which will tell me if it is the best time to book the specific flight that I want to take.
When I'm in a city, I always check to see if they have city mapper coverage here. You input your journey door to door and it will always give you the most accurate options to the minute. You know when the buses are arriving, you know when the tubes are arriving. It takes into account traffic and delays. You have options for when you just want to walk, which is especially useful in London, especially if you are going to Covent Garden but you're on something like the Northern Line and you think it might be good to switch to the Piccadilly line. No, Leicester Square and Covent Garden are about a 3-minute walk from each other. So you're only going to find these kind of things out on Citymapper. And if I can't use Citymapper, then Google Maps will always be the next big winner. Not only for getting places, but this is also where I have all of my saved places. So if anyone has given me a recommendation for literally anywhere in the world, no matter where we are at the time, I'll make a star of it on my Google Maps. So what it means is that wherever I am in the world, I can zoom in on the destination that I'm in and see if I have any stars. And if I do, that means that at some point somebody has recommended this to me, and so I always have a whole plethora of recommendations at my fingertips. And also, if I go somewhere which I think is brilliant, I'll make my own star there to have as a recommendation for other people as well.
And for the times where you need to find your way somewhere and Google Maps just doesn't know, like it will say, sorry, we can't find a way there, I always use Rome to Rio. The Rome to Rio app looks like this, and it will always give you an option or two that you can take. Sometimes you get really lucky on Rome to Rio scenario, and it will tell you the companies that you can use, the times that those transports are going. But if you're really going off the beaten track, it will at least just tell you the different modes of transports that you can take, roughly how long it should take, and also roughly how much it should cost you as well. And in times like those, that information is good enough, and then you just go ahead and use your initiative to ask locals to find the best station that you need to be at in order to make your journey.
My go-to for booking accommodation will always be booking.com for several reasons. They display their information really, really well. You can always see what accommodation exactly that you're staying in, how many people it accommodates, what the amenities are, if there's breakfast included, if you get free cancellation, what your specific room is even looking like. They also have a pretty good perk system the more that you book with them. So I am now a Genius level 3, which not only makes me feel very, very cool, but it means that I get some pretty good discounts throughout the year as well. In addition, in more recent years, booking.com has actually been adding more independent options like people's spare rooms. You can list your own personal apartment, essentially like Airbnb, but everything's on booking.com, so you can see it all right next to each other and compare it to all of the normal hotels and hostels as well. I of course also really like it for the filter functions as well. So if I'm really struggling to pick somewhere to stay, maybe there's just too many options, I will first go on the map and zoom in to the specific place that I think that I would quite like to stay, and then I filter it so that the ratings are only 9 and above. Sometimes I even look to see just if there was anything in my price range that just happened to be like 4 or 5 stars. You never know. And once you've filtered all of those down, you end up finding some pretty good gems and somewhere that you would definitely be happy to stay.
If you specifically want a hostel, I'd also be looking on Hostelworld. Sometimes there are hostels on Hostelworld that don't show up on booking.com, and sometimes there are hostels on booking.com which don't show up on Hostelworld, and sometimes they're both on there but they might be different prices, so it's always a good idea to check both. And on that note, I have RatePunk, which is a browser plugin which will actually tell me if the price of a specific property that I just happen to be looking at is cheaper than what I see it on booking.com. It literally just pops up on the side and will tell me, which is great.
And failing all of this, if you happen to be in a country where most of their accommodations are not actually on the booking agencies, like Pakistan or El Salvador, are countries that I've been to recently, what I always like to do is go on Google Maps. I will zoom in to see what accommodations are there, and more often than not, there is always a number to call. So I will literally just call up the establishment to try and make a reservation, obviously ask what their prices are. For times like these, it is really worth having a local SIM where you are actually able to make these calls, and also make sure that you have Skype credit for the times where you might have a local SIM that has data but not actual network, and so then you can make the call to the local number but using your data or Wi-Fi instead via Skype. And do always check to see if that number that the establishment has is on WhatsApp as well, because a lot of the times they actually do, and it is super useful for just being able to text wherever that you're going to be staying, don't you think?
Now, I have made a lot of packing mistakes over the years, but also discovered a fair few packing revelations. So here are my main few takeaways. You do not need as much as you think you do. No, you don't. You will always just naturally fill the piece of luggage that you have bought yourself. If you have bought yourself a 40-litre backpack, you will fill that 40-litre backpack and you will make do. If you have bought yourself an 80-litre backpack, you will fill that 80-litre backpack, even if you don't say that you will. So if you want to keep your luggage as light as possible, which you do in an ideal world, I would go smaller. Top-loading backpacks as your main piece of luggage are a pile of poop. They are the hardest to pack, and they are going to be the reason you think you need a bigger backpack when you don't. As your main backpack, you want to go for something that is front loading. So either it opens out like a clamshell suitcase, or you can just open up the entirety of one side and see the entire contents. You want something that has some handy pockets, and you also want something which you are able to make the backpack 100% waterproof. Either something that's integrated into the backpack itself, the material of the backpack itself, or a separate item that you can use to waterproof the backpack. And unless you are specifically hiking, thinking with this backpack, the comfort level of how it feels on your back is actually not overly important at all. The most important thing is the space it gives you and how you utilize that space that you have. Now this one's a bit controversial, but if you are backpacking a Western country, chances are you don't actually need a backpack. A suitcase is probably going to be fine because Western countries tend to be a lot more accessible, and if they're more accessible, it means you can wheel a suitcase almost everywhere. If you do decide to go for a suitcase, however, I will say the smaller the better, because there is always going to be a time where you do need to just pick it up over a step or carry it up a few stairs, and if you've got a big suitcase, that's really gonna suck. So whenever I take a suitcase, it just tends to always still be a carry-on size, so I can easily pick it up when I have to. I put my shoes in shower caps to prevent them from dirtying up the rest of the things in my backpack. Do this, you won't regret it. Use packing cubes for organisation, but not for space saving. Always keep your dirty clothes separate in its own laundry bag, and always keep your toiletries waterproofed from the rest of the things in your bag. Exploding shampoo is another one. If you really need to save space on a flight, bring a pillowcase and fill it with the extra clothes that you have, because airlines don't count pillows as an extra form of luggage. Just make sure that pillowcase has a nice zip, because otherwise all your clothes are going to be falling out. Carabiners are your best packing friends. I normally just have carabiners attached to the random various items that I own so that I can just always attach them to things. Not only is this helpful if the particular thing does not fit inside of your bag, but it also just makes it more accessible and also allows it to dry if it happens to be wet. I like to have a mix of thickness and size of my carabiners, and my speaker always has this big fat carabiner attached to it so that I can hook it on to just pretty much anything. I will hang shoes from the laces to the back of my bag. And if it's a big fat carabiner like this, I can also use it to literally hook my Birkenstocks. It goes all the way around the strap, and just hang those on the side of my bag as well. I will also use carabiners to hang underwear and bikinis to the underneath part of a bunk bed, just as a way of airing them or drying them out. This works if it's like a mesh wire bunk bed, and of course if you have the bottom bunk. They have a lot of these in Australia. We love saving some money, so I'm going to finish off this video with some of my budget hacks. We're going to go back to booking flights now, because this is a more recent trick, besides obviously booking your flight in an incognito window, which I'm sure you're already doing. When you're booking a flight directly with the airline, especially with the more budget ones, but even the bigger ones nowadays as well, the basic ticket price will include just one personal item or one piece of hand luggage. It will tell you what the base fare includes, and then it will present you with these options. It will be in columns like this. It will be something along the lines of basic fare, super saver, premium, luxury. And these are the airline's packages, because immediately you might be thinking, oh, well, I need to take a checked-in bag on this flight, so I'm gonna pick the package that allows me to go for this checked-in bag. And that might be one of their luxury packages, which includes a checked-in bag, but as well as this, that, and the other. And you might be thinking, well, I know I'm gonna take this flight, so I don't need free date changes. I don't wanna pay extra for a free name change, because I know I'm not gonna need that. But on the first booking page, an airline will kind of try to make you think that this is going to be your only way of adding an extra bag. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if all you want is some extra baggage to add onto your flight, ignore all of those packages, stick with your absolutely basic fare. You're going to keep clicking through the pages. No, I don't want travel insurance. No, I don't want car hire, unless of course you want those things. And what airlines don't want you to know is that eventually you do get to the page where you are able to simply add your extra luggage. And it might just be that you want like one extra light cabin bag, so it's another $10, as opposed to upgrading your whole package, which would have cost you an extra $50. So waiting until the end of your booking to add on your baggage is just a much more cost-efficient way of getting the baggage that you require. And do also remember, when you're going through that booking process, that the airline will really try to gaslight you into thinking that you need their travel insurance. It'll be like, are you sure you don't want to be insured for this trip? You don't need the flight's travel insurance. If you have your own travel insurance, then you will be insured for that flight, so you don't need theirs as well. And they really try to make you feel bad for not picking theirs, but be strong, you do not need their insurance, and you do not need to feel bad for not picking it either, especially if you have your own. Anyway, how else can we better stick to a budget on our travels? Let's start with a few of the obvious ones. Walk somewhere where possible, as opposed to getting public or private transport. It's always super important that every single pair of shoes that that you bring on your travels are a comfy pair of walking shoes. Whether they're a nice pair of sandals that you want to go out in the evening in, whether they're a pair of trainers that you want to wear in the day, just whatever shoes you bring, make sure that they're comfy enough to walk in for at least a few hours. Find out if the destination that you're going to has Uber, and if not, do they have an equivalent like Grab, Gojek, Ola? There are so many of these apps all over the world these days that a destination always has one, and I will always favour these over regular taxis because you can verify the driver, they can verify you, and I just feel like it's the safest and often the cheapest way to get a private transport. Avoid flashy restaurants which look nice, but for that reason the price tag is extortionate and often the quality of the food just doesn't match what that price is. Eat street food and eat local food. Find the things in the supermarket that are on offer that day. Maybe they are expiring that day, so you can just grab it and have it for your dinner that night, and it's normally over half the price of what it usually is. Consider staying in hostel dorm rooms over private rooms, and make the most of free hostel or hotel stuff. Whether it's a free breakfast, a free walking tour, sometimes even a free dinner if you're lucky. Just don't miss out on any of the opportunities for free food or free activities. And whatever you do, it's a really good idea to track your spending. There are various apps like Travel Spend which are really good for helping you track. I used to sell my really amazing budgeting spreadsheets, but these are currently undergoing a bit of a transformation into something more exciting, which is why you won't find them on sale at the moment, but stay tuned for something in the future. And if all of that budgeting is still not enough, you can pick up a volunteer job using a website like Worldpackers. You can actually get $10 off Worldpackers if you use my code backpackingbananas, and this will allow you to stay somewhere for free and often even get free food and free activities as well in exchange for doing some kind of volunteer work, which might be working in a hostel, it might be doing some gardening, some photography work for some kind of establishment. I had such a good experience doing this in Spain last year, and it also just gives you such a good opportunity to integrate into the local town that you're in and contribute to making a positive impact on that place, hopefully. It's an all-round win-win, honestly.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. These tips, hacks, advice is pretty much the code to how I live my life, and I'm able to travel how I travel. So I hope I've given you a good insight and helped you out in some way or another. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.